So James Gunn has said that Peacemaker Season 2 directly follows the Superman movie and seems to want the audience of Superman to watch Peacemaker Season 2, but he also said Season 2 is very R-rated, quote unquote. So what does that mean for the show's content, and what is Gunn thinking? Is this show for the same audience as the Superman movie? Has he made any changes or improvements from Season 1? Well, I have no idea what Gunn is thinking, but I'll try to address the other stuff. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. The IMDb synopsis for Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 1 reads, Peacemaker interviews for a spot on the Justice Gang, while Harcourt struggles to find work on the heels of Adebayo's bombshell press conference. Economos is forced to surveil Peacemaker under Rick Flag Sr.'s new management. All right, I don't want to talk about or even think about this show after watching the first episode, but I know you guys expect a review on Fridays. I don't have time now to watch and review anything else, so here we are. Let's talk about this animal. The trailers teased a story, a theme of traveling across parallel realities. Surprising to me, they don't use this to merge Peacekeeper with the new DCU continuity, or if they're going to do that, it'll be in a weird roundabout way later on in the season. The merging with the new rebooted DCU continuity is simply strong-armed by literally reshooting material from the first season just to include in the recap at the beginning of the episode. For example, when Peacemaker, this is a spoiler for Season 1, at the end of Season 1, when Peacemaker meets members of the Justice League, well now in the recap, he briefly is interacting with the Justice Gang members, as though that's what happened in Season 1, instead of his interaction with Flash and Aquaman. This is a weird choice. Especially if you're doing a story that has to do with parallel realities, why not have him somehow, and the whole cast if you want, hop from one reality to another at some point in the season, and that's how he gets into the new continuity. On the plus side, I think the recap does a nice job of editing the first season down to its basic story without all the bad jokes. So if you want to jump into Season 2 using just the recap, you're going to be just fine. You're not missing much of anything, certainly of substance, I don't think. That said, I can't recommend trying Season 2 of Peacemaker. Sadly, very little has changed from the tone and the vibe of the first season. The quote-unquote jokes, I guess, often leverage crass sexual references instead of actually being creative or clever, and are otherwise unsurprising to me. The punchline of a joke, I think, and we could talk about the theory of humor, but this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that the punchline of a joke has to be surprising or delivered in a surprising way in order to be funny. It has to be, or if surprising is not the right word, then maybe unfamiliar. If you hear the same joke over and over again, I think you're going to get bored of it and stop laughing at it a lot faster than watching a cool visual action scene presentation 3 times in a row. So I think that surprise to some degree is of the essence of humor. And almost every joke in this episode feels empty of surprise, of originality, of cleverness that takes me off guard. It also leans harder into nudity than any episode I remember of the first season, although admittedly I quickly just started listening to them for the most part while playing video games in order to catch up for this review. When Peacemaker hits a low point, he starts doing drugs, which quickly segues then into this lengthy orgy sequence. I saw a quick flash, and then I just tracked flesh tones in peripheral vision, and that lasted approximately 30 to 45 seconds or more. Count that out loud. It felt like a freaking eternity. And I even finally just went over to my computer. I was like, where's the skip thing? Let's skip this. So it was, went along. Now it is kind of in this one specific spot. So it's the sex scene, if you will, but it's also cut back to a couple times briefly in a later scene with a little bit of contextual warning that if you just put 2 and 2 together, oh, he's about to look at this stuff going on, then, you could dodge it. In addition to the issues I have with this kind of content, knowing the harm it does to viewers, and you can see research collected at yourbrainonporn.com for info on that, it strikes me as a cheap manipulation that is aiming to appeal to the ugliest instincts of objectification that we have. I actually feel just a little bit insulted, maybe like on behalf of the audience, of the DC audience. This is a common tactic in season premieres to ramp up sexiness, like even on network television, if it's not nudity or whatever. Well, when I used to watch network television back in the day, at least, this was a thing that in the season premiere episode, you're going to have some extra sexiness, maybe especially near the beginning of the season premiere episode. At this point, I'm just seeing the code of the Matrix. I'm like, I know what you're doing. I know why you're doing it. I'm seeing the strings on the puppet in this choice, and it just takes me out of the story on that level as well. James Gunn seemed to eagerly let interviewers know that Peacekeeper Season 2 was going to be very rated R. But I was hoping it wouldn't be for nudity, given that he also contextualized Season 2 as coming right after the events of the Superman movie. And when Superman surprisingly came to streaming sooner than a lot of people thought, when James Gunn commented on that, he said that he wanted people to be able to see Superman before they watch Peacemaker. Now, maybe in his mind, he was like, that's for the existing Peacekeeper audience to just kind of be in the loop. He's not necessarily wanting all the audience of Superman to tune in for Peacemaker, but at the same time, when you are promoting them as so connected, that's at the very least going to, I would think, make younger viewers or all kinds of viewers of the Superman movie that wouldn't normally want to watch this kind of content in Peacemaker, it's going to make them curious, it's going to make them interested. But it's for, I think, a very different audience. Not necessarily the humor in terms of it just, well, I don't know. Do people like this kind of humor that I would characterize? Now, again, I have a cold, dead heart. I stopped laughing at Marvel movies years ago when other people, I think, were still enjoying them while munching on their popcorn. So take that into consideration. But like, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get the appeal of this kind of humor. Even if you take the crass sexual stuff out, they just fall flat. It's not interesting. It's not funny to me. But the nudity content seems to me like such a boneheaded choice, just from a tactical perspective. I'm not even talking for a moment on like a moral level. It seems like a tactical bonehead move when you're trying to quickly build an audience for the DCU's fresh start. I don't expect non-believers to make choices in content creation that I'd expect from believers. If James Gunn was a professing Christian, then I might send him an email. But he's not, and so I'm not expecting that he's going to make choices that a believing Christian would make. I'm not clutching my pearls in shock and presuming to wag a finger at James Gunn, but sexualized nudity, even on a purely secular, scientifically provable level, is harmful to the human mind in ways that fictional portrayals of gore and violence simply are not. And I wish that at least on that level, secular filmmakers would be aware of the research and be willing to make better choices for the well-being of their audiences, rather than, in my view, very short-sightedly, without considering the ramifications, giving audiences visual junk food that encourages consuming more of it elsewhere and eroding their capacity for healthy sexuality in real life. Now, for many of you, I've said enough at this point to make up your mind on whether or not you're going to try Season 2. I'll just add a couple comments. Performances and visuals feel the same as Season 1. So if that's good or bad in your mind, there you have that, if you're interested in that info. I do like to touch on themes when I review stuff, so I'll say that a very small point in this episode's favor is a willingness to go to some emotionally heavy places without yanking the rug out with a dumb joke. And so with the theme that I think they're going to be playing with, by not yanking the rug out of dramatic moments, I think there's more potential for that theme to actually be considered, ingested, reflected on by audience members. The central theme, I think, that's being set up is related to getting caught up in regret for the life that you don't have, instead of productively engaging in the life that you do have. And man, that's a great theme. It's worth focusing on. It's too bad that in this episode it is overshadowed with even more of what I disliked about the first season. All right, no idea what your tastes are in TV shows, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Peter, skip. I guess if eventually you're going to review something else in the DCU that makes this feel required, then you might consider just listening to it while playing video games, but otherwise it's hard to imagine giving Peacemaker Season 2 any more time. This one's rated TVMA for language, violence, very explicit nudity and frequent sexual references, among other things. I didn't jot it all down. And those are all of my thoughts for now on Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 1. I'd love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. If you have anything to say, please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. You can get info about the benefits of joining at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Then I hope you'll check out our podcast and stay connected to all CGC content over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. For more chat about geek entertainment, answers to your questions, and news from the wider world of Christian geekery, get the Christian Geek Central podcast today on iTunes and other podcast services.